ago. It's hard to believe it's been a year. It really has flown by, and I miss the old boy. It's like Dr. Klein. Is Mickey here by any chance? I saw Dr. Klein in the mall the other day, and we were talking about Wayne, and Mickey said, you know, he'd get on your last nerve, but you loved him. And I said, you're exactly right. I said, he'd drive me crazy. Of course, I drove him crazy too, but man, I love the guy. He was just he was a man's man. He liked to talk politics and sports, of course, and he traveled all over the world. He could keep us a conversation going about any subject just about. He was something else. So we're going to have a good time here today. We want you to laugh and be part of this. And we're going to see a little video to get started here, okay?
Any way I can, don't you go. Wow, it's hot. Santiago, Verbier, Switzerland.
Oh, yeah. It's his nickname.
What does it mean?
There was a basketball player named World B. Free that could play offense but not defense. And so World B was good at offense but not defense, so everybody calls him World B. Hey, high fives all around.
High fives all around, baby. High fives all around.
I'm through with standing in line. The clubs I'll never get in. It's like the bottom of the ninth, and I'm never gonna win this. Life hasn't turned out quite the way I want it to be.
Tell me what you want.
I want a brand new house on an episode of Cribs, and a bathroom I can play baseball in, and a king-size tub big enough for 10 plus me.
What you need?
I'll need a credit card that's got no limit, and a big black jet with a bedroom in it. Gonna join the Mile High Club at 37,000 feet.
Been done.
I want a new tour bus full of old guitars. Mine star on Hollywood Boulevard. Somewhere between Cher and James Dean is fine for me.
So how you gonna do it?
I'm gonna trade this life for fortune and fame. I'd even cut my hair and change my name. Cause we all just wanna be big rocks.
Who you for in the Super Bowl? Who's on the Super Bowl? Pittsburgh Steelers and Arizona Cardinals. Steelers, no! Let's go Cardinals. Let's go Cardinals.
Movie stars, every good gold digger's gonna wind up there. Every playboy bunny with a bleached blonde hair. And well, hey, hey, I wanna be a rock star. Hey, hey, I wanna be a rock star. I wanna be great like Elvis without the tassels. Hire 8 bodyguards and love to beat up vassals on a couple of gas so I can eat my meals for free.
Diane, hello. It's Wayne. How you doing? Okay. Well, I'm actually standing on a corner in Lucerne, Switzerland right now. Oh, yeah, I was gonna tell you.
Cause we all just wanna be big rock stars and live in hilltop houses driving 15 cars. The girls come easy and the drugs come cheap. Well, I'll stay skinny cause we just won't eat. And we'll hang out in the coolest bars and the VIP with the movie stars. Every good gold digger's gonna wind up there. Every playboy bunny with a bleached blonde hair. And we'll hide out in the private rooms.
To all the fellas and girls at Gino's, because y'all ain't here, and y'all didn't want to be here the last 30 minutes, but other than that, it's been pretty good. Beautiful, beautiful Switzerland. Americans like the Swiss. Oh, yeah.
Beautiful day, beautiful snow.
From a past dispenser, get washed up singers writing all my songs. Lip sync 'em every night so I don't get 'em wrong. Well, we all just wanna be big rock stars and live in hilltop stay skinny 'cause we just want
Excuse me, just for fun,
Yeah.
let's hike down there and walk up these long steps just for fun. Okay.
Let's do it.
Yeah. I was kidding.
blonde hair and we'll hide out in the private rooms with the latest dictionary of today's who's who. They'll get you anything with that evil smile. Everybody's got a drug dealer on speed dial. Well, hey, I wanna be a rock star. Hey, I wanna be a rock star.
Are you American, no?
Wow. Cyrus, how many of those pictures were you in, Cyrus? Where all did you travel with him to ski?
Well, we've been to Singapore, we've been to Japan, we've been to Canadian Rockies, we've spent the night in Bogota, Colombia, Santiago, Chile, we've trekked across Argentina. We've been quite a few places.
Wow. I've been to Trade, Tennessee, and that's about it. We're going to tell some stories right now. Just feel free. There's nothing really planned here. We got a little bit. It's on a whim. So if you've got a story you want to tell, please feel free to, wherever you are, just to. Oh, that's right. They need to come up here. Can they go right here? Okay. What if I handed them the mic right here? Okay, I'm just trying to help everybody out a little bit. But the first time that I ever went on a trip with Wayne, I've known him for a long time, but I went on a trip with him in 2000. Is Jeff Patton here? We went to Pittsburgh. There were had a big auction for Three Rivers Stadium where the Steelers played. And the auction was in the Mellon Center where they played hockey and I guess basketball there. And on the trip, we went to an all-you-can-eat place, and Jeff Patton said, "Blust, you're in for a treat." He said, "You ever been with him on something like this?" I said, "Well, I've eaten with him, but not all you can eat." He said, "Just watch." And it was, what did you say, David Ricker? How is it with him? A dinner and a show when you went with Wayne. I mean, just incredible. I've never met anyone. Anybody else feel this way? Never met anyone that could eat like he could. And he made it exciting. He made it an adventure. He loved it. And you saw him up here a minute ago laughing and cutting up. That's the way he did everything. He loved life. And I always said God broke the mold with two people, and they both go to church with me here. Wayne Otto was one, and Denny Barhite, you're the other one. Nobody like you guys, but boy, I miss Wayne. It was something else. And we've got people that came as far. Jeff came as far from St. Pete. Anybody any further than that from St. Pete? So you win the award. You get to have lunch with Mark Payne. So, anybody got anything they want to tell about Wayne at all? I know I used to make fun of him. He was married one time for 3.5 months. And I would always tell people, yeah, Wayne here was married for 3 months. And what would he always say? He would say it angrily. 3.5. He wanted credit for that half month. And where's Mike Northern? Mike, the first time he ever had lunch with Austin had just gotten married a couple months before that, and Wayne was bragging how he had been married longer than your son. Of course, Austin's long past that now, but he was fun to bust on. Golly. I know, where's Sam Inman? Sam's here somewhere. I would send out a group text many times with 4, 5, 6 people and get something started with somebody just to see what all Wayne would do with it. And Wayne would keep it going, and he could bust right back on you, man. It just never bothered him. But do you have anything you want to say? You stood up? Well, come on up here then. And we've got people, I guess, watching online right now. Thank you for being part of this if you're online right now. But I know I always said, and I said it a minute ago, Wayne was a man's man, no question. There's Sam Inman from Charlotte.
Thank you. If any of y'all have ever been in Wayne's store and saw his organized chaos, of course, he says he knew where everything was, although that's still questionable. He right behind the seat, behind his desk, there was this nice window section. Right there. Yes, that's it. That's it right there. So you can see the windows right behind there. Okay, well, it's just out of that particular picture. There were two Trevor Kidd goalie leg hockey pads. So I'm out there with a stick and a puck, and I'm out in the hallway. So Wayne's on the phone, so I'm going to shoot the puck, and I'm going to pop one of those pads just to scare Wayne. And Bless is in there. We're waiting for Wayne so we can do our lunch club thing. Well, sure enough, I lift the puck, and it goes over the pads. It would have been a beautiful Stanley Cup goal. Goes over the pads and right through the window, right through the glass, and I'm shocked. And Wayne's on the phone. He's like, hold on.
Oh, yeah, he just stared at Sam.
And he went right back to the phone call. So for the next several years, I hear about that, okay? And we're at lunch, and out of blue, Bless would go, hey, Wayne, has Sam broken any more windows at your store? And that would get it started back up again. And the one thing that I did like, there were many things I liked about Wayne. But one thing is that you could banter with him. You could insult him. He'd insult you right back, usually with a better insult. And it was never personal. It was, you never lost sleep over it because you knew deep down it was kidding around. And without a question, it surprised me a couple of times, but when I needed him to, he came through for me and really helped me out in some tough spots in my life. I won't get into some of those and everything, but definitely the definition of a true friend. Yes, he could push your buttons and he could drive you crazy, okay? I used to always tell him he needed to work on his encouragement, especially with me. But then again, at the same time, he could turn around and be one of the most generous people that you've ever come across in any walk of life, and definitely meets any measure of a true, genuine, and good friend.
Yeah, we would laugh at Sam here. Sam took, 17 years to get through Appalachian? Yes. And you think we're joking about that, but Wayne, didn't he give you a big plaque?
Actually, it was a jersey.
Yeah.
The number 17 and ended. And he said the best 17 years of my life, because at that time was spent up here in Boone and Appalachian State, Appalachian Christian School, and within the community, doing a lot of officiating and everything else.
We used to make fun of Sam with that. Of course, we love Sam. And I used to say, yes, Sam's freshman year was with Ronald Reagan. And then his sophomore year was with George Bush, the older one. Then his junior year was with Bill Clinton. And he graduated with the younger Bush. So he took 17 years, but he made it. And Wayne gave him that plaque. That was great. Yeah, Wayne was always, you're right. Wayne would come off. He'd want you to believe he was a tightwad and stuff if you spent time with him. But some of the stuff he would do for people, golly, he was very generous, ridiculously generous. But just a fun guy to be with. And I was telling someone, I can't remember, I've talked to a lot of you, but I I go to bed at night about 10:30. Well, Wayne's ready to sit down for supper at that time. And if you're ever with him, you know, I'm ready to go to bed. He's ready to eat supper. And he is a late night guy. And he did not want to get up early in the morning either. Daryl, he always said church should start at 1 o'clock. You know, I don't think he ever made church on time. He liked it a little bit better when the second service here started at 11 o'clock instead of 10:30. But even with that, he was always 11:10, 11:15, 11:20. But he made no bones about it. He didn't care. He'd just say, but church starts too early. It ought to start at 1 o'clock. And listen, if you've got a story, just come on up, DG, like you are. Just walk on up this way, and I'll hand you the microphone. Again, we were talking to someone else out here about food, but Wayne knew where every restaurant was in every town and city in America. If you said, where's the best hot dog joint, he would know. I mean, he would go out of his way to get a milkshake and a hot dog in a heartbeat. Here you go, Doug.
See, I turned him on to Tony's in Gastonia, and he thought that was the best hot dogs and milkshakes on the planet. But you're talking about late nights and stuff. That was my segue. And I got to know Wayne, I guess, it was about 1980. What he was opening store, 80, 81, something like that. But I was in school. I mean, I graduated up here, and as most of you know, I'm a big supporter. But he's opened up his store, and you never could find any Appalachian stuff. And Wayne had, you know, selection of Appalachian. So I got in there, and we just first talking. Hey, Biggs, I just saw you, buddy. But, you know, we got to talking and almost felt like we were friends from the first minute that we met. And I was fortunate enough to have several jobs that I was in Boone 2-3 times a month. And it got to a point where Wayne was like, well, DG, where are you staying at tonight? And I said, oh, and he said, well, why don't you just start staying at the house? So I started affectionately referring to Wayne's house as the Otto Day Inn. And upstairs to the left was room 2B. As he had Otto Day Inn, room 2B at the top of the stairs. But the late night thing, it's 2000. We're at the Southern Conference Tournament in Greenville, South Carolina. And I get a phone call, and it's Wayne. DJ, what you doing? So we're at the tournament, Wayne. He said, yeah, I'm at the ACC tournament. I said, okay. He said, well, what are you doing? I said, well, we're eating dinner right now. We're getting ready to go back to the hotel. Where are you staying? I told him where we were at. He said, okay, well, I'll probably see you later. I said, okay. Little did I know what later meant. But my son, JT, as a lot of you guys know, we're in bed, and it's 2:30 in the morning. All of a sudden, bam, 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 on the door. And I'm like, Josh is looking at me. He said, what's going on? I said, I don't know. Bam, 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 bam. DG, it's World, get up. I go to the door. He's standing there, and somehow he talked to the person in the lobby, and he's standing there with a rollaway bed. A rollaway bed. And I look at Josh, and I said, you ain't going to believe this. So anyway, sure enough, he's opened up, and he just rolls the bed in, but puts it between our two beds, folds it out. I said, man, I'm beat, DG. And we talked a little while, and he's out like a light in 5 minutes, and Josh and I are sitting there looking at each other. I don't think we slept 2 or 3 hours the rest of the night. But that's just Wayne. I mean, and like you said, he just get on your last nerve, and you're like, man, this guy's driving me crazy. Then you just loved him to death. And I miss him so much. I miss, because I could tell when he was going. So I get a phone call, and I used to get phone calls all the time when he was on the road traveling somewhere. And he always wanted to call and talk about, just burn time, because he's got a lot of time he's burning up and down the roads. But I guess, I miss, I can't believe that the last time I saw him was the Appalachian Louisiana championship game. And he always came by our tailgate and ate and ate and ate. And Biggs was good enough to give me one of his bobbleheads. So at our tailgates from now on, we're always going to set a plate out and put the bobblehead there. So Wayne will always be with us. But I've got a million stories like that. I spent a lot of time with Wayne at his home, spending the night with him. And, Wayne just, I got to know him on a different level. Oh, yeah. Because we spent a lot of time just me and him chatting and just talking about life in general and other things. And Wayne was a lot, see him on the surface, you would think one thing, but pretty deep. He really valued friends and he really enjoyed life. But anyway, I got a million more, but I know I ain't gonna bore it. Other people got a lot to talk about, so talk to you later.
Thank you. The Otto Day Inn. I heard that name many times, many times. You're right about Wayne. Wayne had a deep side to him. If you just saw him on the surface, you'd just think, come on up, Jeff. And you dressed for the occasion. You're overdressed. How many people here have Wayne Otto clothing on right now? That's Wayne's shoes right there. That's a pair of them. Who else? Raise your hand again. David Ricker's wearing an ORU something. Trey, what are you wearing, Trey? Oh, okay. What are you wearing, Willie? Okay. I know Marshall's got one of his shirts on. It says money on the front of it. How many people would make a shirt with their own picture and put something on it? And
anybody that does their own bobbleheads.
And he does his own bobbleheads, too. You've seen him laying around there. This is Jeff Adams from St. Pete, who Wayne said was responsible, nobody else, he was responsible for getting the ACC basketball championship down at St. Pete that time.
Well, I'll beat that. Not many of you probably know. World was actually on the ACC officials roster at one point in time. And before he even got to go to camp or anything, Bearcat says, Adams, I'll take care of your buddy. I get a phone call later going, what in the world is he doing? And I go, what? One of the 50 different startup football leagues, basketball leagues, pro leagues, or whatever. He goes, I can't have a guy in the ACC that's out officiating whatever startup league that lasted two weeks. He calls me one time. He goes, I got my interview for a professional hockey league to be a ref. And we're talking and stuff, and we're laughing. He calls me back afterwards. I go, how'd it go? He goes, man, talked with a guy for a long time. And he asked me, what do you think your strengths would be? And World goes, oh, that'd be game management. Well, I start laughing because World doesn't know any rules or the hockey. I'd taken him to his first hockey game back Olympic team and went and saw it. And I go, can you skate? He goes, well, the guy asked me after we go for about 30 minutes, he finally asked me, he goes, do you know how to skate? World doesn't miss a beat. Well, I'm pretty good going forward, and I can turn left. I can't turn right very well, and I don't go backwards. He goes, I don't think I'm getting the job. So anyway, I'm sorry. I'm also known as Wood, the World, as the Wood. I went to ORU with him. I was in his wedding for the 3.5 months. I then got to work with Walt on getting him out of the wedding, and he goes, I think it's annulled. What's that mean? I go, that means, can I tell people I've never married then? I go, no, what you can do first is you can give me my wedding present back, because if you're going to claim you were never married, I want to get the present back. World, I got him, everybody that's got kids, their Uncle World, Hartwell, Sandstead, Fancher, I can go on and on with everybody. Hardest thing I had to do on losing my best friend was tell my kids. They loved their Uncle World and the stories and things they did. And I laughed, I gave them grief. My wife Angela learned to deal with them on coming to the house and stuff. And the bigger, the better, and the more candy it was for the kids, the better. And you just kind of tolerate it. And I go, well, I actually saw what happens, and it happened with everybody, was when your kids age up enough that they become more mature and outgrow Uncle World. Because he was good. He was about a 14, 15, 16-year-old teenager most of the time, going wild to drive us crazy. But World, and then I'll quit stories. World and I went on trips from back in college, back in the 70s. In his wedding, Final Fours, Coach Payne and stuff. I used to laugh because I'd go back to my hotel and Mark could get the pleasure of going back some hotel with World and dealing with him for the rest of the evening. But World and I went to, 20 Final Fours probably together. We did double header. You do the triple header in basketball up here, college games. But football, we do double headers on New Year's Day every day for a lot of years. And it wasn't until I went skiing with them and I'd seen him play tennis that I actually realized he did have athletic ability. Other than just eating, because basketball-wise, he dressed the part in his pro uniforms. Softball-wise, baseball, he dressed the part. ORU baseball, hitting group number 4. You all got to hear about it. That's World's group. They changed, instead of the Grill Master this fall, they officially changed the fall weekend baseball series instead of the World Series. On the board, video board with his picture, it's the World B Series. The boys miss, or the fellers miss him tremendously. I've never been so proud of ORU and the athletic department, not on winning games the last couple weeks, but last year when they found out World wasn't doing well, the prayers for him, the calls, the recognition of what he meant to them was truly moving, and I appreciated it tremendously because of how much I loved that knucklehead and the bowl cut haircut that only he could sport. A couple weeks ago, they're in the Summit League tournament. They're going to the championship, and I've heard from multiple guys in the athletic department last weekend in Indy, multiple, daily, texts and everything. And the ORU mantra when they play tonight and beat Arkansas, because our boys up there cheering and pulling strings, I said, yeah, but they go, he's clapping. He got that clap go Cyrus like he did on the Super Bowl. Let's go for ORU to Titan Eagles. We were Titans back in the day. They changed us up to the Eagles now, but I go, well, he's got hot dogs in each hand and got popcorn there, so I don't know how much clapping he's doing. But anyway, the ORU athletic department, I kept getting texts all the last couple weeks, every day, on the mantra for the ORU basketball team that's going to beat Arkansas tonight is for World. They haven't forgotten him. He's deep in their hearts. The legacy is there, and it brings me to tears. And Cyrus, that video, if you lose the audio on it, let me know, because I promise you, I watch it at least once a day with tears on our boy. And all I can say is go Titan Eagles tonight for World. Thank you. That's great. Thank you.
That's pretty awesome, isn't it? He would go out to ORU. He would go for all the sports, but baseball he really got into. And before he got sick last fall, he would already tell us at lunch what his schedule was going to be for this the spring of 2020. He was going to be out there for 2 straight weeks and take in probably 9 or 10 games. He knew who they were going to play. He knew what games he was going to be at, and he was just so excited about springtime coming. I was with him when he started feeling poorly right after the first of the year in 2020. And again, we joke about Wayne and food, but if you're with him and he's not eating much, you take notice of that. And we would be having lunch, and I'd say, Wayne, are you okay? And he said, yeah, I think I just went to too many football games this past fall. I'm tired. And you don't think much about it the first couple times. You thought maybe he just had a stomach ache, but his stomach was bothering him. And he would get a foot-long sub and only eat half of it. That was the beginning of it. And he said, I'll eat the other half tonight. And then it got worse and worse. And I kept telling him to go see the doctor. And they, through all the tests and blood work and everything, I think he finally passed away, in case you don't know, of pancreatic cancer. And I would take him to get his stomach pumped. His stomach would swell up. Some of y'all remember seeing that. He got to be pretty miserable. Never complained. He just tell you he didn't feel good. But, in fact, it was a year ago on this date, the 27th, that I had spent that Friday night with him. And let me just say this while I'm talking about it. I had a number of his friends from around the country call me and text me and thank me for taking such good care of him. And I'd tell him, I say, I'm not really doing that much. I tell you, the ones that's doing it, Biggs here, where's Biggs? David and Greg did a lot with him. The Rickers and their two sons. How many nights did you guys spend with him? Tons. It was ridiculous. But I know it was a year ago on this date that I spent a Friday night with him, and Lord, he got to talking. And I was sitting on the couch with a blanket over me, ready to sleep, like I said, about 10 or 10:30 at night. And he's right back around the corner in his bedroom, and he kept yelling, "Blessed!" He never called me by David. I never heard David in all the years I've known him. It was always Blessed. If he answered the phone, if I called him, it was Blessed. But he talked all night long. It was crazy. And finally, about 4:30 in the morning, it stopped, and I got maybe 3 hours sleep. And then I heard, "Blessed," probably about 7:30. "Go get us some biscuits and gravy down at Hardee's." He was craving that. And I did, and he might have eaten 3 bites of it. Of course, he passed away about 3 days later. Was it the 30th? Monday night, the 30th, Daryl and David, y'all were over there? Okay. And I just thought some of y'all might need to hear that he was strong even in death. Sunday night. Okay. But, they were trying to get him to the ambulance, and I guess he died in y'all's arms, didn't he? Y'all were trying to help get him in there, and he just went ahead and went on home to be with the Lord. And that's another neat thing about Wayne. Wayne, for all the stuff you could pick out that was bad with him, which really wasn't that bad, he put his faith and trust in Jesus years ago. So, man, come on up. And boy, there's been a huge void in my life, because I went to lunch with him 2, 3, 4 times a week. He'd always want to eat somewhere, and he had about 5 places he would go to, and that's it. So miss him dearly. Go right ahead.
Hi, my name's Brad Cook. I'm from High Point, North Carolina, and I'm sure there's no one here that knew Wayne longer than I. We were the same age, almost crib mates. Went to elementary school, middle school, high school. And one of the stories I remember, it was Easter break, and we were going to the beach, and Wayne was driving his car, and all of a sudden, about halfway, he says, "Brad, how about you driving?" I said, "All right." So he gets over, and all of a sudden, the next thing I know, I hear this noise. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "We're going to the beach. It's time for a beer." And all of a sudden, I'm driving, probably speeding, and all of a sudden he starts yelling, "Pig, pig, pig!" And I'm slamming on the brakes. I said, "Where?" He goes, "You didn't see that 400-pound pig standing on the side of the road?" God. Another one, and my wife is here and grew up in the same neighborhood, with Wayne and I. And we were coming up, and Wayne says, well, how he went to games on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just all over. And he said, "Well, just stay at the house, and I'll tell you where the key is." And most of y'all have probably been in that house. We walked in the door, and Wayne said, I hadn't been there in about 2 weeks. And we walked in, and the kitchen over here. We had to go find towels to put around our nose, because the dishes hadn't been done probably in about 2 months. And the milk was almost like cottage cheese. And we cleaned the kitchen. And I think, if I don't get sick, I never will. And he called, he says, after we left, he says, do y'all clean my kitchen up? Yes. Well, you didn't have to do that. Yeah, you did. Yeah. And my last story, I was a traveling salesman, and I was out on the road, and I'm checking out. And I opened the door, and I put luggage in. I'm walking back, and I hear this, Brad, is that you? I turned, and it's Wayne. I said, yeah, I'm checking out. Don't close the door. I said, why? He said, I just got in town. Can I use the shower? You didn't use all the towels, did you? But I was blessed and fortunate to see Wayne. I can't remember if it was, I called Betsy and said, could I come up? And I think I came either Saturday afternoon or Sunday morning, right before he passed. And, you know, it was great seeing him, and, you know, loved the guy. Just like I love hearing y'all's stories, because I knew him when he was a trim young man. Y'all probably never remember that, but thank you.
Thanks, Brad. You know, I went to Western Guilford High School, and I'd always bust on Wayne and say that he went to High Point Central Prison. And it's always, and he'd always bust on my high school, and I'd bust on his. But, yeah, we knew a lot of the same people back in Greensboro and High Point. But come on up here if you're next. But we could sit here probably and go until tomorrow telling stories about him. They're just so unique. Tell us your name.
I'm Cyrus. So I met World B some time ago, and funny thing is I met him in Mexico, but we're very close, obviously, where he's here in Boone and I was in Ash. But we decided to go eat tacos at the restaurant, or at the really crappy-looking taco restaurant beside of Carlos and Willie's or something like that, some dance club. So we're eating tacos, and then later on the cruise ship, I met him at the Midnight Pizza Buffet, and we started bonding. And then some years later, I was at Gino's and asked him if he wanted to go skiing, and this is in 2008, and he said, sure, where would you like to go? So I said, Chile. And then he corrected me. He said, it's Chile. So I learned how to do my pronunciation for these places we went. So we left in August of 2008, and we make it to the airport in Santiago. We catch a bus ride on the way up to the mountain, and I'll never forget, we met this couple, Matthew and Adeline. They're in all of our ski videos, if you guys have watched them. But they're from Switzerland. And so Matthew's my age. I'm 42 now, and Adeline she's probably still 21. I'm not sure. But so we're riding the bus up, and we get there in the morning, and then there was an avalanche that occurred. So we got there at 10. The avalanche happened at 1. And so I'm yelling down the hall. I'm like, World B, come and look. So he comes running out of the hall in his underwear, running as fast as he can down the hall, and trips and falls. And at this point, I'm just laughing because I'd never hung out with him in any length of time. And so this British couple walks out of the room, and they look down, and he's trying to struggle to get up, and he comes over, and we saw the avalanche happen. So at that moment, we're stranded for 10 days on the mountain, nobody in or out. And so all we have to do is ski and eat. And as everybody knows, eating was one of his favorite things, and so was skiing. So I think the first night we had an all-you-can-eat buffet, we're talking, and he asked me a question about, I do computers, so he asked me if I could do inventory at a store, and I'd never been to a store. And I started talking about getting QuickBooks point of sale, and he falls asleep while he's eating as I'm responding to that question. So 6 months later, we're in Switzerland at Matthew and Adeline's house. They have a chalet in the Alps. I think the date on it was either 1796. So it's amazing that the history that they had and the memories that we were able to make. But Lots of times we would meet people. He never met a stranger. And one time somebody asked him where he was from, and he said Manchester. And he had an American accent, so they thought they meant the U.S., but he's like, no, England. So that broke the ice for the rest of the night. He knew how to have fun. He knew how to have an adventure no matter where he was. We were in the airport in Santiago in 2018, and I went to the bathroom and came back, and he had rented a car, not from a rental company, but from a Chilean, his personal car. It was an 80 model something. It barely ran. It was 4-cylinder, I'm sure of it. And so we're taking this thing through the Andes packed with 3 full ski bags, and he is literally hanging out one arm out the window. And I honestly didn't think we were going to make it back, but we did, and it was an adventure. And I could go on and on like everybody can, but back to the never meeting a stranger. We were. There were some Brazilian guys in Chile on another trip. We've been to South America multiple times, and they couldn't speak English, and we couldn't speak Portuguese. And I'll never forget, these guys were they almost looked like they were just kind of ganging up, just kind of getting together, bonding, talking. They were talking about his red San Francisco 49er gear. That's what he always liked to ski in. And he couldn't speak Portuguese. We couldn't speak Portuguese, and they couldn't speak English. And the moment that we bonded, or that he bonded with them, was when he we were in a hot tub, so he made a snowball, and he throws it at the hotel, and somehow it was the right window that was open, and it went in that window, and it hit a mother breastfeeding a baby. And she walks out with the baby, and she's staring down, and she is giving us, I don't know what language she was speaking, but she was pointing her finger and going down the road. And at that moment, all of us bonded, and we couldn't speak to each other. And it was a bond that was deep because we all rode the same bus back to the city, and we'd gotten off the bus, and he had left his ski boots on the bus. They happened to know where we were going, and we tracked across Santiago one night looking for his ski boots, and he was not going to leave those ski boots in Chile. I'll tell you that. But we found them, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours later, and they kept leaving breadcrumbs at different hotels where they were trying to find rooms, and they kept telling us where we could go to find his ski boots, and we found him. And he was 2 foot taller than anybody on that train, running across, the metro system there in Santiago. But anyway. I could keep going, but I just wanted to share some of those experiences and just pay tribute to a really, really great guy, somebody that's one of a kind.
Cyrus, I met you and your wife at that little deli in Publix that time. And that's where I first heard your name. You and your wife were in there that day. Come on up, Mark. Anybody else want to come up, get right over here, and then after this, we're gonna see another video here in a few minutes.
I figured I'd tell a few basketball stories with my encounter. I'm Mark Payne. I coached basketball at Beaver Creek, Watauga High School, and Ashe County High School. And my first meeting with Wayne was when I was at Beaver Creek. And he came over to referee, and I can't remember if he was with John Hollers, because he refereed with John quite a bit. Because I'd seen him referee with John down at East Wilkes one night, and then those days you worked a 2-man crew. And John stood at half court, and Wayne went baseline to baseline for both games. And he was a little skinnier then, but he did that. But he refereed a game at Beaver Creek one night, and he did not blow his whistle one time in the girls' game. Now, he did in the boys' game, but in the girls' game, he did not blow his whistle. And he said, well, he didn't see anything that needed to be called a foul. And since it was, no offense to the ladies, he said, since it's girls' basketball, I didn't think we needed to be there very long. I wanted to get on to the boys' varsity game. But one of our biggest collaborations was the High Country Prep Classic that many of you in Boone, and that actually David and some of his cohorts actually worked the games. But we decided, through my friendship with Wayne, and we decided that we could host an 8-team basketball tournament and get teams from all over wherever we wanted to, as long as he would pay them enough money to come. And then he housed them up at Gino's, up at the hotel there. And the first year we did that, we pretty much lost our fannies because of it wasn't going to balance out. We had good people coming. Lots of folks came, but we kept doing it, and it was very enjoyable, and it really helped basketball at Watauga High School. I thought it was important that we did that, and we had lots of fans in Watauga County and such. But now Wayne, he had information from somewhere, but his crew that worked the concessions was Walter and Vera, and I think Betsy came one time, and she would never come back. And Jerry Snow did all the statistics and stuff. And Jerry I'll mention to you, if you remember Jerry Snow at all, Jerry would have been here tonight or this afternoon, but he had a heart attack and open heart surgery here probably about 3 weeks ago, and he still can't. He's doing a lot better, but he can get out. He doesn't want to get out among the people with his to make sure he doesn't catch anything. He didn't want to catch anything there. One of our tournaments we had that was coming, and Wayne wanted the brackets. I kept telling Wayne, let me do the brackets. You worry about the food, the motel, the so on and so forth, and let me draw the brackets. Well, he had decided that through his information down in South Carolina, we were going to invite Fort Mill. And they weren't going to be very good, so that Watauga High School, was going to play Fort Mill in the first round game. Well, let me say right away that they wound up winning the tournament. Well, we played our fanny off against Fort Mill, but we got beat. And the first thing Wayne said to me after I got through all the post-game things, he says, you were supposed to make it to the semifinals at least. We can't make any money if you don't make it to the semifinals. And I said, well, if you'd let me draw the dadgum brackets, we would have made it to the semifinals. Your folks in South Carolina didn't tell you the right thing. I'm the one that started Wayne going to Final Fours. We went to our first Final Four together in 1985 when it was at Rupp Arena. I'd been going since 1980 when I was an assistant coach at Coastal Carolina College. But I took Wayne with me in 85. I drove my car and Wayne rode, and it's just me and him. And from there on out, we went to pretty much all the Final Fours. One year it came, it was one of those years it was in Indianapolis, and it's been in Indianapolis a number of times. But I was not going to drive my car to Indianapolis, and I told Wayne it was his turn to drive. Well, we argued about that for a while, and finally he said, I'll get Walter's car, and I'll drive Walter's car to Indianapolis, which was fine. Yeah, Wayne. Well, yeah, I meant that Walter was Wayne's dad, and what a great guy. And Vera was his mother, and I referred to very affectionately to Walter as Walter the Wallet, because for Wayne. But two other little stories I'll tell you. When Wayne did the thing up at the Convocation Center, we had Oak Hill and some team from I don't know, had a lot of foreign players, and it was a 2-night thing. And he said, Mark, you need to come up to these games. I said, sure, I'll come. Well, the first night I came, this Ugandan 7'4" player needed his ankle taped. Well, his ankle wasn't any bigger around than that circle on my hand, so I went back and taped his. He said, Mark, can you tape an ankle? I said, sure, Wayne, I can tape an ankle. And I went back and taped the guy's ankle, and then Wayne comes back and looks at him and asks him, did he do a good job of taping your ankle? And he said, I forget exactly how he answered him, but yeah, he did. And he looked at me and says, well, Mark, now if anybody asks, you're the official trainer of this event. I said, okay, I can make an ice bag and I can tape an ankle, so I'll be the official trainer. So it's my dealings with Wayne has been so many memories. In that office picture you all see where he's sitting and he's got the ORU banner, one of my favorite things to get him with was, I never believed, I'd tell him, I never believed you graduated from ORU. Can we see your diploma? We need some proof, some evidence that you graduated. And he said, no, I did. Anyway, I said, just bring your diploma. I will pay to have it framed for you. We'll frame it. We'll hang it up in your office. But Wayne and all the stories that you all tell, I love Cyrus's stories because Cyrus has already told me some of those, some of his stories there. And of course, Jeff had some. It's just, every time you were with Wayne Otto, regardless of whether you were eating lunch or what you were doing with Wayne, you received an opportunity to tell a story. And the last one I'll tell, and Biggs is coming up, is I went with Biggs and Wayne to the Jordan Hoop Classic down in Charlotte that time. And Wayne got us all in, but before we knew it, me and Biggs and Wayne are the ones that were going to pick the MVP of the game. You remember that? So we were like at the press table or something up there where Wayne had figured this all out as he figures everything out. But anyway, I'm with all the rest of you. I do miss him. I miss talking to him because he was always funny but he loved sports. He loved basketball, and I don't know exactly when I met Wayne, but I know that he was my friend for as long as I can remember.
And boy, he liked old music too. He loved the early Rolling Stones. I know that. We talked a lot about that. But come on up. But yeah, you could start talking a subject. Even if he didn't know it, he could fake it. But if you helped him at one of his tournaments, he loved to give out titles. He would always give you a title. He wanted to make sure that you were a part of it. You were very important to that. It's David Gregg. Go ahead.
Again, I'm David Gregg. I met Wayne when I was in high school. And basically, as fate took it, eventually ended up working with Wayne for the past 14 years. And I'm just going to highlight a couple of stories because, again, like we could all sit up here and tell stories all day long. To bring up the bobblehead, okay? As we all know, we made fun of the bobblehead, but World B was a marketing genius. If you walked into any equipment room in the United States, I don't care if it was NBA, Major League Baseball, or the NFL, and even hockey, there will be a World B bobblehead on the equipment manager's shelf. And I've witnessed that firsthand. So as weird as it was, it really worked. Another thing, everybody talks about, once you meet Wayne, you're his friend. I remember we went to a Florida State game because he had a buddy that was one of the assistant coaches, and he said, introduce me to Stan Jones, which is the assistant coach for Florida State basketball team. And Stan Jones, he went up and says, hey, I'm World B. And he goes, well, what's a World B? And he goes, you don't know who I am? And he goes, no, I don't know who you are. And they stood there and talked, and after Wayne threw out about 10, 15 names, you'd think these guys knew each other their entire lives. Next thing you know, they're best friends. And to this day, it's that way. So that's just the effect that he had on people because, as we all know, World B does know If he doesn't know everybody, he knows somebody that knows that somebody. And he will make that contact. On the food side, I'm just going to leave it brief. The best invention that ever happened was the TV show Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. We would go on trips, whether it be to the national, to a football game, basketball game, and World B would have gone online, and he goes, I think there's a Triple D restaurant near here. And he would take an exit, and we would drive, and we would drive. We would be 30 minutes to an hour off our route. And he goes, here it is. And we would eat there. So, claimed a little fame. We ate at just under about 50 Triple D restaurants in the United States. Like one of my friends mentioned earlier, we were going to an LSU, ASU game, and we had our airline tickets already reserved. And then he called up old Dave James down there and said, changed our plane tickets. And he goes, well, why'd you do that? And he goes, I just thought we'd go through Memphis and eat some barbecue first. And so we did. So at 7:30 in the morning, and then what really got him going was he had to wait 30 minutes before him to start serving lunch. And a couple of us said, well, do you have anything now? And we ordered breakfast. And he goes, well, you didn't tell me you had breakfast. So anyway, he was always a treat to travel with, to be with. And the one main thing that really stands close to my heart that he always did is working with World B. Because, you know, work is all he knew, okay? And that work included, and I can't tell you how many times he'd pick the phone up and he'd start dialing at about 10:30 in the morning or 11, depending on when he got there. And he goes, Wood, what you doing? And he'd talk your ear off for about an hour, hour and a half. He'd hang the phone up. And he goes, and it's like he had a Rolodex in his head. He called 20 people from ORU, some of his old coaching buddies. He would go through a list till he found somebody he could chit-chat with. Mark Payne, all the time. Marcus, what you doing? And many times, Cyrus, where are we going skiing next? And this is probably in the middle of August. So he really stayed in touch with as many people as he could over the years, because I truly believe that he missed you. And another thing that the Wood brought up, I'll have to bring up, World B loved his friends that had children. Not only did he love their children as like they were family, but World B just needed any excuse he could do to go hit the roller coasters. And the children, because I know when he called up, he says, are you ready to go to the theme parks? And I know he took them every time. And is it Cedar Hills in Cedar Point in Ohio? World B, even if he had to go by himself, he would get the day pass and ride every roller coaster they had. And like you said, he was a
Come work a game on Saturday, stick around and go to Busch Gardens on Monday, because you could ride a roller coaster, and there were so few people there during the day, everybody else was working at school, they let him sit on it, and he just keep going and going and going.
Well, like I said, he loved his roller coaster, and like I said,
Work, that's all we do.
you know, and And I'm sure those were write-offs for business. So, That's right. Just to touch on the eating part, World B was not a sprinter in any form, shape, or way. He said eating is a marathon. My last story I'm going to tell, we were at the National in Chicago, and a bunch of the vendors that we'd befriended over the years, we all went out to eat. We went to Giordano's deep dish pizza, one of his favorites. And there was probably, I'd say probably 15 or 20 of us at the table. Well, we had been there eating for about a little over an hour. Well, the rest of us, we kind of look around, we're all just kind of chit-chatting and talking. And World B is at the far end of the table, and he's still going at it. And everybody says, well, the waitress came to the table, says, do you want a carry-out box? And World B looked at her and says, I'm no quitter. And we're like, they're getting ready to close in 45 minutes. He says, I can do it. So we love him, we miss him, and again, like I told David earlier, telling World B stories is like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. If everybody here could take one part of a story and apply it to their own in some shape or form. So, World B, we miss you, buddy.
Thanks, David. How many of you have heard him say, work, 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 that's all I do? What are some other things he'd say? I know one, I'd always bust on his hair. I told him he had a Jimmy Connors haircut. It's out of style. Chicks dig it. That's exactly where I'm going. He'd put his fingers and he'd rub it through his hair and say, chicks dig it. But he had a number of things he would always say like that. And I miss that. I miss my friend very much. Anybody else? Marshall, you ready to come up? Video, and then Marshall.
With my cameraman, he fell. But Niseko, Japan, a lot of 49ers fans from New Zealand and Australia. See you, man. World B Otto out.
Again, thank you all, everyone that showed up today. Thank you. There are a lot of other people. The guy had so many friends from all over the world, but it's difficult to get people out on a Saturday, especially a year after someone passed away. But Marshall, go ahead.
Hey guys, my name is Marshall. I am the worship director and leader here at the church, and I've gotten to know World B in the last 17 years that I've been in Boone. I actually got to go on a 3-day trip with him up to Cedar Point, And I can vouch for his undying love for roller coasters. We actually were there for 3 days, and after 2 days at the park, there's a group of 9 of us, and we were really close to the Sandusky River, where you can do some fishing like no other in the United States. You can go fish for walleye, carp, what they call buffalo up there, and all these big fish that are making runs through, to the Great Lakes up there. And we were like, yeah, let's go try some fishing out. That'd be fun. All 9 of us, except for World B, wanted to go fishing, right? And so, World B in classic fashion, just like, no, just completely against it. He's like, man, we got to go back to the roller coasters. And he actually went, true story, we all vetoed that and decided we were going to go fishing as the group. And World B went by himself to Cedar Point while the rest of us went fishing. And at the end of the day, when we picked him up from the park, he was like, man, it was a party the whole time, just loving it. So it didn't faze him at all that he had to do that by himself. So I'll give a little explanation here, and I'm going to do a little song. World was somebody who would come to church, and he would never hold his opinions back. He'd always give his feedback and critique on how we should do worship and music on Sunday mornings, and he'd always meet me after church and just be like, man, he'd say stuff, and this would be in his typical fashion where he's talking to you, but everybody within a 25-foot radius is going to be able to hear conversation, and he'd say, why do you guys do these songs where you got to do, like, you say the same thing over and over again, and, why can't you sing a good song like Onward Christian Soldiers, man? That would be, just imagine, like, the ORU, the Golden Eagle Marching Band on a field, and onward, he'd be doing this whole thing, and I was like, World B, man, I don't take requests, man, I'm not going to do that, and he'd always pester me about it, and he'd be like, Marsh, Onward Christian Soldiers all the time, and I say, how about this, man, I'll do Onward Christian Soldiers at your funeral, how's that sound? And he kind of thought about it, and he was just like, yeah, that'd be good, how he was just like, yeah, that'd be good. And I didn't expect to be, that's a picture of the day that World B brought to church. This was on a Sunday morning. I mean, everybody's here, and he rolls in through the back of the auditorium there with a big timpani drum that he got from the marching band, one of his big hoards that he got from a sports program that he was going to try to resell, and he brought that up on the stage and was like, I'm ready to be a part of the worship team now, and he was as large as life, wasn't he? So anyways, I didn't expect that I would be singing this song so soon, but I'm going to be singing Onward Christian Soldiers. I learned this song about a day ago, and I don't play keyboard that often, so you guys bear with me a little bit, but please sing along. We'll have the lyrics. So this is for you, world. We love you, man. We miss you. We know you're having a fantastic time right now up in heaven.
Christian soldiers marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Christ the royal master leads against the foe, forward into battle, see his banners go. Everyone sing it. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Like a mighty army moves the church of God. Brothers, we are treading where the saints have trod. We are not divided, all one body we, one in hope.
Christian soldiers marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Crowns and thrones may perish, kingdoms rise and wane, but the church of Jesus constantly remains. Gates of hell can never against the church prevail. We have Christ's own promise, which can never fail. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Onward then, ye people, join our happy throng. Blend with ours your voices in the triumph song. Glory, Lord, and honor unto Christ the King. This through countless ages, men and angels sing. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before, with the cross of Jesus going on before. We love you, world.
Well, my name is David Ricker, and I'm going to be wrapping this up today. World was a dear friend of mine, and I had the opportunity, as like many of you, to get to know him through numerous occasions, different things that would go on and happen, and all of you've got multiple stories, as do I. But what I'm going to share intentionally today is the last few weeks of his life here on earth. I was honored and privileged to be a part of those moments. And my two youngest sons and myself were right there with him when he stepped out of this world into eternity. And it's just, I've been a part of that on a lot of different occasions, and it's just awesome for those who know where they're going when they face that destination, because 1 in 1 people, it's a startling statistic, is going to die. Every one of us in here are going to draw our last breath. Every one of you. And if you think you're not, you're wrong. You're going to die one day. The Wood made mention that, and it's finally good to get to see you. I've heard your name many, many times, and I never did get to meet you, but he thought a lot of you and spoke highly of you. But he mentioned ORU. I've got the ORU basketball sweatshirt on. In case you didn't know, they're playing tonight. Need to cheer them on. This is a plaque that they sent him. He got this about a week before he left here. It says ORU, and it says Wayne World B. Otto 2019-20, the Varsity Club Award. And we have a video, my son videoed when we presented that to him. This is about 2 days before he passed away. And if you could, Daryl, roll that video.
Go Titan Eagles. Love the Titan Eagles. And I'm going to cherish this. This is good. I am very happy and proud of this. Wow, that's an honor right here. Yeah, that's pretty good.
And World was, as every one of you has stories, and he was just an awesome, awesome man. And we set this up intentionally, very relaxed, with barbecue on purpose, and Hannah's barbecue on purpose, because if any of you have ever gone with us down to Hannah's and eat and everything, it was always an adventure. Anytime you ate with him was an adventure. And so we wanted it to be relaxed, but there's a reason why we can laugh and cut up and have a good time, because for many, many, many people, this is not goodbye. It's just, I'll see you later. Okay, we know because of what Jesus did, we know we can see him again. Notice I said can, not necessarily will, because world has finished his race. And I had the opportunity, like I said, to be there holding his hand when he breathed his last, and his soul slipped out, his spirit just slipped out of his body. And that's going to happen to each one of us. But every one of us, the reason we're able to share these stories is because in Genesis it talks about we're created in the image of God. And so every human being has godlike qualities in them. And now some people hide it very, very well on this earth. But world didn't hide it. He would radiate the glory of God all the time, which is why we have so many awesome stories and why we can laugh and cut up and all of that stuff, because he was a man's man, as David said. And in Genesis, it talks about that, and it talks about, it's funny, I was reading the other day, and when God wanted, to create fish, he spoke to the sea. And then when he wanted to create the trees, he spoke to the land. But then when he wanted to create man, he spoke to himself. And he said, let us make man in our image. And just like if you take a fish out of water, it's going to die. If you take a tree out of the soil, it's going to die. If you take a human away from God, you're a living dead. And world stayed connected the whole time. And he left and went straight, because the scripture says in 2 Corinthians, to be absent from the body is present with the Lord. But the reason we can laugh and the reason we can have a good time and all of this stuff is because of Jesus, simply put. Now, world would say, and I'm talking to people online and everything else, they're our target market. People are our target market. He loved people. He and I were driving up 321 one time, and he was talking, he was referring to the LBGBs is what he said. And he's like, Ricker, that's our target market. We gotta reach out to them, love them. And I was like, yeah, I agree. And we would have all kinds of conversations. And he understood the love for people was greater than anything else. That's another quality of God, which is why everyone is here, why you love him so much, because you know he loves you. And you know the way he carried his life radiated the glory of God. But all of that to say, this is, yes, a remembrance of world, but it's also to honor Jesus. He's the reason why we can have that hope. Because if we do not understand that, if you don't understand that, and I'm talking to people online, I'm talking to people in here, if you have not received Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior, and you draw your last breath, you will not see him again. I promise you. Because there's only one way, only one. Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and life. No man comes to the Father but by me. And I know a lot of people think there's many ways. They're wrong. It's not true. There's only one way, and it's Christ. And Christ Jesus alone. And you can say, I disagree with you. Okay, that's fine. One of these days, one of us is going to be right. I know who it's going to be. So I encourage you, I implore you, get to know this Jesus that world knew. He knew him. He didn't know about him. He knew him. That's why y'all laugh and cut up and have a good time. He ate a lot, yes. But everything, when you read the Bible, all kinds of great things happened around meals. World and I was talking about that one time at Hannah's. I was like, man, Hannah's is good. That's what we had back here. I was like, Hannah's is good. He goes, yeah. You notice, Ricker, how good this is? He goes, like, this is some of the best barbecue on the planet. And I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. I like it. I mean, no, I don't know if it's best on the planet, but I mean, it's good. And he loved it. But then we started talking about Scripture. He and I would do that. We did that a lot right before he breathed his last. And he knew where he was going. He did not fear death whatsoever. He never feared it at all. And it's because he had that certainty. He knew. He knew that he knew that he knew. And I hope that for each of you. I want that for each of you. Well, we're going to end here in a second with a video. And there's a song that's being to this video, and I believe Cyrus did this video as well. Cyrus is amazing with computers. But it's a set to a song by Mercy Me that many of you have probably heard, I can only imagine. And right now, as Scripture said, to be absent from body is present with the Lord. World, and Daryl and I have joked, is interceding for ORU. He's right there at the throne going, come on, you got to let him beat him again. You know, I can just see him. He's having a good time. He is. He's loving life. And that's what we're to do, is love life. But I want to encourage each of you before you leave here and before you get offline, if you don't know Jesus Christ, you're missing out on all kinds of good, because he loves you more than life itself. He'd rather die than to live without you. And I know that is because he did. And he rose again. And I encourage you to get to know him. Not just know about him, get to know him. Because you're going to find a friend that's greater than any friend you'll ever have. So we're going to close with this video. I encourage you to watch it. I want to thank you guys for coming. Thank everyone for being online. Enjoy the food. Enjoy the camaraderie. And God bless all of you. Thank you.
I can only imagine what it will be like when I walk by your side. I can only imagine what my eyes will see when your face is before me. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine when that day comes and I find myself standing in the sun. I can only imagine when all I would do is forever worship you. I can only imagine, yeah. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, I can only imagine when all I would do is forever, forever worship you. I can only imagine.
My name's Courage. My wife and I have only been up here about 2 years, but was just reminded, kind of like, excuse me, what David was saying. I remember one of the last times he came to church, straight in the back. I had preached a sermon and I hopped down, and he was sitting up against the wall, which was not normal. He always sat right over there in the corner. We had a rolling chair that he sat in that he would always sit in the back. But I remember walking back to him, and I was going to serve him communion. And he said, "Courage, God's got me." I said, "Yeah, he does." And started sharing communion with him. And this is what I want to leave you with. I remember the tears coming out of his eyes, and he just opened up his hands. And he said this to Jesus. He said, "I'm yours." And he said it again, "Jesus, I'm yours." And I think it would be fitting that we just echo those words back to God, because like you were saying, Ricker, really all that Jesus wants is relationship. And so could we just close with that? So, Father, thank you for the celebration of World B. What a guy. What stories, what laughter, what joy he brought to so many people. And we celebrate him, and we celebrate you today. And as we close, we just want to echo those words. I remember that like it was so clear when World B just opened his hands and he said, "Jesus, I'm yours." So today, those watching online and in the room, Jesus, we want to give you our lives anew and afresh. We want to just echo those words. Jesus, we belong to you and we're yours now and forevermore. So thank you for the celebration. Jesus, thank you for your life. Thank you for World B. And we celebrate you when we celebrate World B today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. God bless everyone. Thank you for coming.